Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Freeman Focus podcast. I'm your host, Mariano. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, What the Snark in Wild Rose, Wisconsin. What the Snark specializes in custom apparel, hats, hoodies, decals, and branded gear, all designed and produced locally. All right, now let's get back into it. Part three with my conversation with John Wenninger, owner of Wenninger Auto Repair, Towing, and Wenninger Auto Sales.
Mm.
If you've been following along, you've noticed that we've been digging into John's journey and the mindset that it takes to build a business from the ground up and what leadership really looks like when the responsibility never shuts off. John, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Molly. I want to go back a little bit. We kind of ended in about 2015 here, and I want to just back up to 2014. That's when good friends of mine, Randy and Michelle, moved up here from Milwaukee. And when they moved up here, that's Randy Rademacher Senior's son and his Randy's wife. When they moved up here, this kind of started a whole new operation for me. Because when they moved up here, they didn't really have a place to live or anything like that. And then so that kind of got me into, at that point, I started getting into buying rental houses, and I would buy a rental, and then I got one for like Randy and Michelle. And then as time goes on, I would buy, when I'd have somebody come from out of town and didn't have a place to live, I'd buy another house. And honestly, a lot of my rentals I have now, a lot of my employees live in them, and it works out good because then they had a place to live, and it worked out well. When Randy and Michelle came up, Randy, I hired him as a driver in the transport, and he did that for about 5 years. And Michelle, she was only part time when she started for a little while, but then as we got bigger, um, at the shop on Pickle Row, I would have one secretary in the main office. I needed one in the back office. It was just getting too big for one secretary to even handle it. So as we went on there, she started part time, and she kind of learned the ropes, and then we started training her on how to do like quotes and estimates and stuff like that.
Service writer work.
Yeah, service writer work. We started training her on that, and that's when kind of Brandon was in the office, and then she was in the back office, but then she went to the front office, and Brandon went on his own. Or like I said, he went on his own, and so we'd always have a secretary in the back office, and then Michelle started that, and I'd say around 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. We were training her up, and Randy was still in a 4 car yet. And then we'll get back to them in a little bit here. So then in 2015, we had the new transport business going. We had the towing, the auto repair, the lake weed harvesting, and we ran that, 2015, like up to about 2017. And in 2017, we started, the transport really started taking off really good. I mean, we were running, like I said, we had a couple late model trucks, but like older, everything was old. It was just a lot of
It
old
was from,
trucks.
it was from the South, though. You said you've typically picked it up from
Yeah,
like
yeah,
California or
yeah. But
non-winter
they
states.
were used, right? I mean, you had to keep working them to keep them on the road. It was just what it was. It was just they weren't completely used up, but they were damn near to the end, where
Right.
you had to. It almost seemed like it was more of a fight to keep them going than it was to. So then in 2017, that's when Michelle pretty much headed up the office, and she was like in Pickle Roll, she was like the head person. She answered the phone, she did quotes and estimates, and then we always had a back secretary, helping out with answering and the phones and everything. But in 2017, that was the first time I bought my very first new 4 car, brand new. And that was, I mean, we were going from this old, 2001s, 99s, I mean, just all old trucks. Bought our first, bought the first one in 17, got that one on the road, and we were up, we'd retire one, so we kind of stayed at 5 trucks. But then in 2018, I ended up buying, I bought 2 new trucks in 18, 2 new trucks in 19. I think I bought another one in 21. But at
Are
this
those all
point,
from Zips?
yeah, yeah,
All from
mostly.
Zips, mostly.
There was a 16 I bought in there from Purpose. I mean, that time when we were just ramping up with these new trucks, and that's right. Remember, Madison flooded, and then when that flooded, we were just getting these ramped up, and we were working on. We get them in, we get tag axles put in. We were working around the clock because as soon as we had one ready, it went to Madison, and that's what it saved us in Madison was we got all this new equipment, and we're feeding it in, and but in 20 so we got the In 2019, we'll jump up there because it gets really busy from 19 to 25. It's so in 2019, everybody knows Ed from the Moose, and he called. He said, "Hey, John," he goes, "You want to do lunch with me at Grimm's?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And we sit down, and he says, "You think you can build me a smoker, like a meat smoker?" I don't know. I guess I can. I don't know why I couldn't. So he shows me a picture of this LP tank. And he said, people buy these brand new LP tanks. Never had LP in them. You come apart and make a smoker out of it. And we're sitting there eating lunch, and I looked at it. I said, nah, I said, that ain't going to work. He goes, well, this guy just built one. I said, that's great that he built one. I said, but Ed, we gotta think outside the box here. I said, a smoker out of a LP tank's great. I said, but how about we build a destination? And he looked at me. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, let's take a semi truck and build a smoker. And I said, and that'll give a lot of people a destination. Say they want to take a bike ride on a Saturday, like from La Crosse, or they want to take their old car club for a ride. People just look for a destination to go on a 1 day ride, or a 1 day little trip. And I said, I think where your setup is there right on 21. I said, I think if we build a smoker built out of a semi, I said, I think this thing would really, go over well. I said with the media, with the public. And he looked at me. He goes, that's an outstanding idea. So Ed, at that point, gave me completely free reign. He said, you build whatever you want. And that was in 19. Now going back when they started with the Moose Inn, I mean that had to be back in, God, had to be around. I started my business 97, 90. It had to be about 99, somewhere in there is when
Okay.
that opened the Moose. So they started with Ed and Dan, both partners, right? Well, where I came from in Richfield, down by Hubertus, Dan, his partner, lived 1 mile from my house. I knew him perfect. I
Oh
knew
wow.
him. I knew the whole family because I went to school. His sister and I went to school all the way through, I think, kindergarten up. And then I didn't know Ed, but then Ed and Dan both worked for the Milwaukee Journal at the
Really?
time.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they both worked for the Journal, and they were doing. I think they were doing really well at the Journal. And then so then when they both bought the Moose. Dan Obremski, he says, "Hey, Ed, you got to meet John." Blah blah blah. He said he's from Richfield, and back then I was already working on some of his cars out of my shop house in Richfield. So Dan knew me, and that's how the relationship with them two went. And obviously, as they went down the road, they separated, and then Ed just bought him out or whatever he did. He ended up with it. So ever since then, the Moose Inn and Ed. I mean, we've serviced all his vehicles, all the Moose's vehicles. I mean,
Yeah, I've seen that.
yeah, that's unbelievable. And so, I mean, Ed knew at this point, Ed knows what I can do and, what capable of. So he asked me about this smoker, and I said, well, I've never built a smoker. I said, I built outdoor wood boilers, and I guess you need three things. You need wood, you need heat, you need smoke. To smoke meat, I said, it can't be that hard. So I had a 1970 Kenworth day cab semi I had sitting at home. I took that and I started cutting and welding and putting together. And I said for the tank, I said down in Lanham, Wisconsin, they make brand new fuel tanks, right? So I said, well, why don't we just order a brand new tank? I can get it they'll any dimension you want. So they could build a tank, but then you'd have to cut it up. I mean, cut it apart and put the doors in and
Right.
put the wood chamber, the smoke chambers, the stacks in it. And that really worked out good. And that was 2019. I want to say I had probably about 450 hours in that smoker. I mean, that was the
That's a
first one
lot
I
of
ever
time.
built. When I got done building it, I took it outside and I filled it up with wood and fired it up. Didn't work right.
Okay.
It burned and it worked, but it was really hard to maintain like a temperature in it because the vessel was so long. So I told Ed, I said, I got an idea. I said, I'd put an inducer motor on my, like on a wood stove, you put an inducer motor on there. So I put an inducer motor in there in the door with like a choke plate on it. And then you could dial that plate, open or close. Maui, that thing works so good. I mean,
Regulated everything is the
if you
missing
wanted to
piece.
set it at 200 degrees, it ran at 200 degrees. If you wanted to run it at 250, 220, whatever you wanted, it was at your disposal. As long as there was wood in the box, the wood box I built it was so big. It was 4 feet by 5 feet. I mean, you could put a lot of wood in there. So
Right.
once you load it up with wood, you said, and then he would actually mark that plate. He knew exactly, after he ran it a couple weeks, he knew exactly where it had to be for what temperature. And that thing works so damn good. I mean, that thing smokes a lot of meat at one time, and it does a
I've
good
tried their
job.
food. It definitely works, John.
Yeah, no, it definitely
So
works.
good. So
We
good.
we I drew that on a napkin at Grimm's bar and slid it over and showed it to him.
He told
And
me about that. Yeah.
yeah, it was just on a napkin. I said, "What do you think?" And he's looking at it. He goes, outstanding. He says, "That's why I'm coming to you." So we built that one, and that was at 19. So we had on the 19, we get it all set up out there, right? I mean, we got it ready to rock and roll. It's right by the road. It's got lights on it. It's ready to go. And we put it out there. You would be amazed at how many semis stopped
Oh,
and
I
took
imagine.
pictures of that. And you'd be amazed if you go on like any semi like website, you'll find that truck on there. It just throughout the United States. I could be in at a tow show in Florida, and a guy will ask where I'm from, and I tell him what I told me. He goes, "Hey, you got that semi smoker up there," and I mean, it just something. It did exactly
It's
what
a
I wanted.
destination, like you said. It's a
It did
destination.
exactly what I wanted it to do. I mean, it gives them a reason to go, and people take pictures by it and stuff, and that was the whole goal, right? That was the whole goal behind it. So we get it all set up in 2019 and just rolls into 2020, and guess what? COVID.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You can't even fire this thing up. You know what I mean? When we got there,
Right. They put a halt to like all kinds of travel and
every day you couldn't
especially
go.
indoor services. You weren't
Yeah,
allowed to eat because 6 foot policies, right?
yeah. So you couldn't. Yeah. So then what happened was finally I'd said, he said, I have to. I got to fire this up. So they fired it up, got it dialed in, and then he started with, the takeout orders. But it went over really, really good. I mean, in 20. So a lot of things happened in 20. I was born with a bad heart valve. So my tricuspid, one was, I mean, it's a common problem. It's not like it's, so, it's not horrible, but it's a problem. So when I was
Complication.
20, they told me by 60, I had to have one. Well, here it is. I'm 50 years old. I got to have one. Um, I go in and get it checked every, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Now I'm down to every 4 months. And finally in June, I went in. The guy said, you got two options. He says, you either fix it now or you die. He said, it's done. It can't get enough blood through it. So when I'm trying to do stuff or build stuff, I get winded. You just got to stop. So then on June 3rd, I went in and during COVID, and I went in, I had a new valve put in. And when I was talking to the lady, I said, well, you could have a pig valve, a cow valve, or mechanical. And I was talking to her. I said, well, give me the pros and cons. She says, well, if you get a pig or a cow valve at 50 years old, she said, before you're 60, you're going to have another open heart surgery. You're going to burn them out in 5 to 8 years. She said, you're just too young. She goes, if you were 65, 70, I'd say put a pig valve in. But she says you're not. You're active.
Right.
And she told me, she said, if you were one of my relation, I would say go with the mechanical valve. Now, the only downfall of mechanical valve is you got to take warfarin, that blood thinner,
Yeah.
and you got to take it the rest of your life. I mean, it's something you have to do. And I've never in my whole life taken anything. I mean, I've barely even taken aspirin.
Right.
I was kind of against that, but then I didn't want to get. She goes, you're going to be looking at 3 open heart surgeries before you're 70 years old. And the problem is every time they try to
There's risk.
every time they try to put a new valve on this heart, the material gets less and less, right?
Right.
To the point where maybe it won't even go on or it'll blow out. Who knows, right? So I asked the lady, I said, well, I said, can you show me what this mechanical valve looks like? I'm a mechanical kind of guy. I'd like to see this.
The inner workings. Yeah.
Yeah. So she goes and grabs me one and brings it over, and I'm holding it, and if you take it and you kind of put your finger through it and it opens and closes, it just goes up and comes down, it goes up and comes down like that, and it can't fall through. And they said, is it going to make this hideous clicking noise? Every time it hits, it goes click, click. Oh, she goes, absolutely. I said, I'll be able to hear that. And she goes, oh, absolutely. And so and I talked to Dawn and I said, well, I said, I think, I don't want to have 3 open heart surgeries. So let's just go with the mechanical, because I'm a mechanical guy, right? It works. So I got it, and they went through the surgery, and they put it in, and that was the first. And I actually was out of the shop for over a month. I think it was like a month and a half for open heart surgery to heal. So they put it in, and I'm sitting there, and I can hear this thing, kabang, kabang, kabang. And I thought, oh, am I going to get used to it? But you do. You don't even, after a while, it's like living next to a train track. You don't even hear it anymore. But man, did I feel good after that. I mean, when I was in the hospital, when they did the valve in the hospital, then I went to ICU, and then I went upstairs, and they said, well, if you can make 3 laps around the top floor, you can go home. And I'll tell you what, I did not want to be in that hospital. So yeah, within 3 days from my open heart surgery to 3 days later, I was out of it. Went home, everything healed up good. It took about a month and a half, and during that same time, we had got the we had at that same time we had got the Main Street shop, and
Okay. Yep.
we opened another shop up on Main Street. That was in 2020. Plus we opened a car lot at the same time. I wasn't even there. I was gone a month and a half, and Brandon was still there helping with that, and yeah, he got all that. He got all of that rolling. I mean, it just goes back to the team you got, right? I mean, I didn't even have to be there, but they handled everything. So that's when we opened a shop at Main Street. We took Michelle and put her down there, and then I took Randy off the road, and I put him in the office at Pickle Row. And then the plan always was that at Main Street we would do like maintenance, tires, brakes, you know what I mean, oil
Loop
change,
changes. Yeah.
yeah, training services, stuff like this. But the problem is I ran out of room at Pickle Row. We would get so busy that there just wasn't enough square footage to do what we needed to do. And then when that came available, it actually worked out well because it was a 3-bay shop, and it took all our maintenance out of Pickle Row, and then it gave us time to do the transmissions, the engines, the
Big
rear end.
jobs.
Yeah, big jobs, diagnosing the stuff that doesn't run that you got to get going. And so that worked out. I mean, actually to this day, it works out perfect. It gives us room at both shops, and it kind of keeps everything, organized that way.
That's 7 bays total, correct? Between those two, how many are in
Five, six,
pickle?
7, 8, and I got one at say at nine bays.
Yeah, 9 with stands.
Yeah, so I got 9 bays total with both, and yeah, we can usually keep them all full too,
I
which is
remember seeing cars just constantly doors opening, closing, cars coming in and out. Didn't
oh,
matter which shop it was at. Like
but
business is doing good. Watoma's definitely it's
usually
growing.
before we had the Main Street shop, Howie. I mean, that was like musical doors in that building there. I mean, because you do your oil changes there, your maintenance there, and that was the problem we were running into. You would now we got it set up with enough. Well, actually, I take that back. I added hoist in that one, two, three, four. I got 6 in Pickle Row now because I doubled that first one up.
Okay,
So we'd put a car in there, pull a transmission out, and we wouldn't have to push it back outside. So that saved us time for not having to put
absolutely.
the drivetrain back into to get it out, and then we could just leave it there. And then what I tried to do was every mechanic got 2 racks, so that once they ripped apart on one car, they could just jump on another rack and
Right.
keep rolling.
Waiting
Just
for
trying to get
parts
it.
or something to come in. You're at a
Yeah, parts or
standstill.
whatever. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, waiting for a tranny to get built, whatever.
Efficiency, working
Exactly.
smarter.
We used to have to, what we used to have to do before the shop on Main, we'd have to put them all kind of back together and push them out, push them in, push them out, push them in. Well, now if you can just, schedule it so you leave it on the rack, and it works out real well, especially if you got some project cars where we end up working on like a lot of like, even older cars, older trucks, stuff like that, Mustangs. We built a lot of vehicles. Excuse me. And so with that second rack is you could say you work on that car 3-4 hours a day, but you have a customer car scheduled. You could still go to the customer car, get that knocked out, and then you just go back to, because a lot of them cars, the big projects, they'll be 30-40 hour projects, right? I mean,
Right,
they're not small jobs, and
right.
and usually we'll take them like over the winter because it slows down a little bit in these months here. So then them big project cars are nice to have because then you can, get them knocked out. You always got to have them done by spring because when spring rolls around, Watoma goes, it goes from 2,000 to 10,000 people at all the
Yeah.
lakes. And we have so many customers from that. I mean, it just, once spring rolls around, you get nice weather. Them shops just run wide open. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can set your watch almost by it, when
Right.
the people come back, which is
Yeah, I've
good. And
seen it. I've seen it because even when you get flat tires, sometimes it's a higher end vehicle from Illinois, and it's like the bolt pattern's got some sort of special locking mechanism, and
yep.
yeah, I've seen all kinds of things from the people that come
Oh,
temporarily.
sure, sure. And they just want to get back on the road. That's all they, so we do everything we can. And that's where like Randy and Michelle come in, and Michelle does a good job. I mean, somebody has a problem, like I said, if somebody has a problem and our alternator goes out, we will do everything in our power to get them on the road as fast as we possibly can. And the same with like tires, we always got a guy that just basically his job is patching tires. Because there's always somebody has a nail, or a bead leak, a valve stem leak. And instead of pulling a guy off a big job all the time to patch a tire, we just finally got a guy that just does tires. I mean,
Right, fast
and
at
then
it, you know.
yeah, and the good thing about that is when they just do tires, they're really good at it because
Right.
that's all they do is tires. You know what I
It
mean?
kind of comes back down to proficiencies too. So putting the right people in place, like Michelle, she'll hear the call. She'll kind of diagnose what they're saying the car's doing. She'll know
Yep.
if it's got to go to Pickle or if it's coming to Main Street, and that saves time.
Oh God, yeah. And over the years, I mean, look at how many years she's been with us.
Right.
She could probably diagnose some of these cars as good as the mechanics. Just
I've had
because she
conversations with her. She's smart.
well,
She
just
knows.
because she's been through, and then if she doesn't know something, she still calls me and she'll say blah blah, she'll tell me the story and I'll say, well, it sounds like this, but we got to get check it out. And she goes, well, that's what I thought too, but she said I didn't want to see it until she
Oh
got a
yeah.
second opinion on it.
Right.
So then, another thing that I kind of did in 2020 also, I had that heart valve and I was out for a month, but just short before that, just before 2020. I I stepped back. I was always in the office and I would schedule and do this and that. And I stepped back from that role. And at this point now we got two shops going, the transport company, the auto repair, the towing, the weed cutting. And I stepped back and I kind of took a different role at this point. Now I kind of took the role more of an owner than a worker. I mean, I what I would do when I would come in to this day, I'll go through and I'll check all the aspects of all the businesses. And if one of them needs help or they're in a bind, I jump in and say, okay, let's do this, this, and this. And we organize and we build a plan and we go at it. But what was my biggest problem now, at this point, I've been in business almost 30 years. People call and want to talk to me, and Michelle did a good job at this because they call and say, I have to talk to John. I got to talk to John. She says, well, can I help you? And they don't trust her because she's not me.
Right.
So she'd switch it over and I grab the phone and so and so be on the phone. I said, hey, what's up? He says, well, I need to make an oil change appointment. I'm like,
Something so simple.
I said, Michelle can do that for you. I said, she does that. As time went on and Michelle she'd be a bullet and she'd say, what can I help you? And then they'd say, yeah, I could absolutely help you with this. I'll get you set up. Everything's computerized now. She
Hmm.
gets you in there. And then after a while, she's got so many customers that just love her because she takes care of it. Right. And same with Randy. Randy answers the phone. He's got his customers and I hate to even say this, but as generations go on, a lot of my first generation customers are passing away. I
Right.
mean, I was working on their cars when they were 60, 70 years old, right? And now they're getting to the age where they're dying. And sad to see. I mean, I had a lot of customers that I consider very, very good friends. I mean, you get to know them so good, and you know their families. And I mean, throughout the years, they become, you become kind of part of their family. So as time went on, and I stepped back into this other role, I still work in the shop. I build equipment for transport or for towing, and like building them smokers, right?
Yep.
if I didn't have a person like Michelle and Randy there, I couldn't just go. I build them in my shop at home because I got a fab shop there. I wouldn't be able to take 450 hours to build this. You know what I mean? I go in the morning, get everything, check everything out, make sure it's going, and I would go and spend the rest of I would work until 9, 10 at night at home working on building stuff like this. But that's the stuff I love doing. I mean, two things I love doing is fabricating, and I love heavy recovery. Them two things I could do it. I could probably almost do it around the clock. I enjoy it that much.
Right.
So now that Michelle's there and she's got these people diverted from me, we have a whole new set of customers now, right? Throughout, we have younger kids come in, a whole new set of. It's mom and dads now. Their kids are coming to us, and I hate to say this, but there's a lot of customers that don't even know what I look like. Well, they don't. You know what I mean? Because I'll be, like I said, I'll be in the back
Your
and I'll be
parents
working
sent
on.
them, right?
Yeah, I'll be
Your
in the
parents
back
parents
working,
sent
or I'll
them go
be.
see John.
Yeah, to go see Jet, and then if something, or something, somebody has to see me, I'll come on, we'll talk, and like say she has something that's just goofy, and she'll say, well, can you talk to him? I go and talk, and we kind of come up with a plan, and with the customer, and we go at it, and but I mean, I'll tell you what, my old customers know me, but the new customers, they you lose contact with that. They used to call on the phone, and I couldn't remember all the names. But when I heard their voice,
You
I
knew the
could tell,
car,
oh,
you knew the
you got a
situation.
you drive the 87 Buick Regal. I could put their vehicle with their voice, but then not always the name because
Right.
there's just so many names, right? So at any rate, when that was kind of by design, and it worked really well. I mean, that's where Randy and Michelle did an excellent job. They keep everything rolling smooth, and I don't have to be exactly in that office all day. You know what I'm saying? I'm there every day, but I'm just always everywhere every day.
You don't got to micromanage certain aspects of the business. You can trust
No,
that it's in good hands and that people are doing what needs to be done.
100%. They do a really, really good job. Like I said, they get in the bind, they call, and we build a plan, and we execute it. We always make it work somehow. So then let's see here. I gotta go down. So that was 2020. We opened a car lot in like 21, and that was another thing. We ended up buying that property, the old Scoops Corner Store, and then opened up as a car lot. Now, like I said, that's a car lot, and it's actually an eBay store for parts. So I
Right?
mean, yeah.
It's
So I mean,
awesome.
yeah, I got two people that work over there. Christy's over there full time. Ed's over there selling cars, and it just I hate to pass an opportunity up, right? If it's there, try it. If it don't work, it don't work. But you'll never know if you don't try it. You got to give it a go.
When it comes to eBay, it's the money's there. It's a slower game because it's waiting for the person that's looking for that exact item to
Yep.
know it and to know its value and to know that they're getting a bargain.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
what it comes down to.
So in 22, Ed Klinger comes to me again. Well, I've seen a lot of times, but he says, John, he says, I need another semi-smoker. He said, I'm going to open a place in Wapaka. And I looked at Ed. I said, holy cow, Ed. I said, okay. I said, let me, he says, just do whatever you want to do. Fine. I don't care. Just build it. So I found, my brother-in-law, Pat, up north, up by Surrey, found had an old farmer that had a cab over Freightliner. And that's where it started. We get that. I go in the back by me. I found the chassis, put
A
it
little
all
bit of a
together.
delay here.
And that one, when I built that truck, so now we had the other one running for like 3 years now, 2, 3 years, yeah, almost 3 years. So we kind of knew the biggest problem we had with that is when you wanted to clean it, you had to crawl inside there, and that whole inside frame was welded together. So you really had to crawl
Close
over it and through
corners.
it, and it was a pain to clean. So I told Ed, I said, I'm going to redesign this one. I'm going to make everything 100% removable. So we built this smoker. I pretty much built that one all. The first one I built, I'd fab it up and tack, and that was, my heart wasn't 100%. So Ryan would come in and he welded for days and days and days. That's all he did was weld. He'd cut stuff out, we'd weld it, tack it in, and he would just weld. And then on this one, Ryan wasn't around, so I basically built the whole smoker myself. I mean, from start to finish. And that inside, when you open it up now, you can literally take every piece out, and they're all pinned in. When you take all the pieces out, because you got double grates and you got grease
Hmm.
trays, there's a lot to it. And then once you take it all out now, it's just a big open round circle center, like a tank. And you can go in there and
Easy
clean that
access.
thing. Oh man, you could clean that thing in a third the time, right? Because you can get it. And the other thing I did on that one too, the first one I put I put the exhaust, I teed it and made two stacks because the exhaust stacks were the smoke stacks. But I never, depends on the draft on the first one. I didn't know. Sometimes you got both pipes, sometimes you got one pipe. So on the second one I built, I thought, well, hell, I'm going to put dual exhaust on it. So I made true dual exhaust out of that tank, and it works so good and it burns so efficient.
It looks pretty sweet when the eyes are red or green and you
Yeah,
just see
yeah,
the smoke
yeah. Them are
rolling.
green and the other one's
Yeah.
red. I just went with the color of the truck, and yeah, and the smokestacks are, pounding away there, and yeah, no, it. I like building stuff like that. I enjoy it. It gives me a lot of. I put a lot of pride in my work. I have my whole life. I mean, I try to do it right the first time. So then that was the second smoker we built, and that one worked out good. I mean, it worked out perfect. So then in May of 2020, my mom passed away.
My
That
condolences.
was that was hard. She was ready. She was up there, and then she was ready, and so it was bittersweet. But she got to go where she needs to be now. You know what I mean? And she's got just as much credit for helping me build that whole business. And she came up, she started, she was the one hanging on the ball joints and doing the paperwork and doing yes, it was her. We started, it was just me and her. That was it. And that was after she retired,
Right.
so she came up and did that. So yeah, so that was bittersweet. I used to, on Sundays, I'd see her at least once a week. I'd stop by and I always bring her hot ham and rolls, and I'd miss a week and it's like, oh, I thought you fell off the face of the earth. Yeah. It's only been a week, I said. It'll be okay. So no, so that worked, that worked out, as good as it could for what it was. She she never wanted to be in a nursing home. That was her whole thing. She
I
wasn't
don't
going.
blame her.
And she actually got that. She died in at home. I actually I'd gotten her a house and she rented it from me for years. But yeah, I think she died peacefully and she died at home, and that's what she wanted. There was no nursing home in her future at all.
Yeah, I mean, to be surrounded by a bunch of strangers, and I'm sure, yeah, they build a relationship with you, so they care about you, but it's not the same as loving family. Passing
Yeah.
around the family that you helped create is more
Well,
important.
and then she had COPD and she had heart problems too, and she couldn't go a long distance, right? She was on oxygen. She couldn't go a long. She was getting older, and she couldn't go a long distance. So at the end of the day, though, I think the last 10 years, you're almost like a prisoner of your house. You know what I
Quality
mean?
of health is so degraded that you can't enjoy life.
No, we would try to take her out once in a while to to a casino so she could play some slot machines or something, and we did get to do that. I think it was about a year before she passed, and the girls' sisters took her up there, and that was cool. They got to spend some time with her that way. But she got to the point where she didn't trust herself to even walk outside, right? And she told me right out, she said, "When I die, don't be sad. I've been ready." And yeah, I think everybody at some point in their life comes to that conclusion, right? You can't imagine dying, but then it's at some point you go to yourself, you know what?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I've been here long enough, and my quality of life ain't what it used to be. At this point, why am I here? I get it. I do get it. So,
Try to make as
anyways,
much impact as you can throughout your entire life, so that way you're
yeah.
satisfied at the end.
Well, exactly, 100%. So yeah, so that was in 22. So then,
Why don't we take a quick commercial break here,
yeah,
John, and then we'll be back here after a moment from our sponsor.
sounds good.
If your business needs a fresh, professional look, What the Snark and Wild Rose has you covered. They specialize in custom branding, from apparel and drinkware to sharp decals for your vehicle, equipment, and even storefront. If you need help with marketing, social media, or creative ideas for your business, they can assist with that as well. They're all about elevating your brand and helping you present your business with confidence and the gear to match. Whether you're starting out, refreshing your image, or just want some custom apparel for your team, stop down on Main Street in Wild Rose and let them help bring your ideas to life.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in. I hope you enjoyed that message from our sponsors. We're going to get right back into this part 3 with John Wenninger. So, John, back to you. You said between there.
We're up to 22.
22.
That's when my mom passed away.
Okay.
So now we're going to go to about 23. In 23, the transport business grew quite a bit. And at that point, Brian's running the transport business. He's basically the transport manager, and he takes care of all of it. And in
Shout out Brian
23,
Johnson.
Brian Johnson, at 23, we ended up going up to 10 trucks. We started with 5, and then we kept growing. Now we're actually up to 12, but then we run 10 trucks consistently. So we always got a backup truck now. But yeah, if you would have ever asked me, in 2017, if I seen myself having 10 trucks on the road every day, but the reason I have 10 trucks on the road every day, or I shouldn't say the reason we have 10 trucks on the road every day is because we do the job we say we're going to do. If we say we're going to do it, we do it. That's been my platform my whole life. You say it, do it. And then when you do that, you get some credibility, and at that point, they can trust you. They trust you 100%, and then that's what makes a good business, right? Once they trust you to get their job done, that I think a lot of people, that goes farther than anything. So that we jumped up to 10 trucks in 23. So transport was doing good. In 24, this is kind of cool. 24, my son Jake came to the shop to work for me, and he was there for a while, and he's still there. But I mean, he was there, a month or two, and then shortly after that, my daughter Emily came to the shop, and which I guess is nice, back in back in 2019, 2018, with the basically the 5 businesses. Dawn used to be in the shop at the office too. But I ended up taking her out of there, and we built the office at home. She's got 3 computer screens. She's got, it's one person to do all the book work. It's a full-time job. I mean, there's so many moving parts, and I mean, Dawn goes through every single aspect. I mean, every check, everything. She doesn't miss anything. And you have to be able to do that, because if you don't, it'll, it'll get away from you. But she's good at doing that. So when we do go on vacation or something, Dawn had trained Emily to do her job. Plus she's in the back office answering phones, and she does all the transport billing and everything like that. But what's nice is Emily is able to do everything Dawn does. So if we're gone, she just keeps everything running smooth as can be. And Jake, awesome. Jake, he's basically the IT guy. I mean, he's the guy he'll figure out, ways for the eBay store to run more efficient, or get AI involved and get it to do some of the, process on it. And, that's his forte. I mean, he's good at doing that. Real good at doing it. If the internet goes down, when you were there, the internet would go down. He'd be able to kind of troubleshoot it out, and kind of get
pretty quickly figure out where the problem is. Where the problem is at. Is it our problem or is it their problem?
As well as me, is if we don't have any phones or internet, right?
Chaos, utter chaos.
Oh my God, you can't take in calls, you can't do sheriff's calls, you can't. There's a lot of people relying on that internet to work. And without it, we are dead in the water. I mean, just
right.
So I mean, it's good to have it. In this day and age, you gotta have somebody that's good at computers, right? I mean, because everything's run off home now. So if we get in a bind, and he'll even say we do some different tunes on cars and stuff, and he'll program them and stuff and get them dialed in so they run good and everything. And so I mean, it's just not just computers, and he'll get into the auto part of it too.
Engine mapping and fuel management system.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, yep.
Parameters.
Yeah, parameters and stuff like that. You can kind of get in there and see what everything's running, that way. And so now we got I think it was last year. Yeah, about a year now. Stefan came and worked for us. Boy, I mean, we have all good. Our technicians are good. I mean, Trent, Stefan. I mean, they're all such good. I'm very fortunate to have the crew I have right now. I mean, because they will figure it out. They always do figure it out.
Critical components. Each player is like an important component.
Yeah, Stan's part time with me now, but he was with me full time for 24 years. I mean, Randy Michelle since 14. I mean, Brian. I mean, the people that have been with me a long time. And even the new ones. Uh, the newer people that work for me. I mean,
They're gaining some tenure.
oh yeah, they are. I
Setting up.
mean, yeah, and so I mean, you try to keep, try to do what you can you always want them to succeed, right?
100%.
I mean, if they succeed, I succeed. It's got to go both ways. Everybody's got to make it here.
Well, in mechanic shops, a lot of people don't realize it, but a lot of it comes down to book time and how long it takes to get the job done. So you could say like, all right, I only want to charge you this much money, but it depends on how much actual book time gets put into that job.
Yeah,
Sometimes things go wrong. If you're working on a brand new car that comes straight from the dealership, sometimes things are a lot easier to work on. But when you're working on something that's 20 years old, things don't come apart so easy. And sometimes things happen that you don't anticipate for.
yeah, you know it.
Having the right person to diagnose it, to stop before things get even worse, get someone else involved. Hey, what do you think? What do you think we should do to pull that out and look into that? And before you know it, you've diagnosed the true root cause of the problem and saved the customer some money by being
Yeah.
proficient with the right team.
But then you got the book, and it calls for 1.1 hours to change an alternator, and this car is 20 years old, and the first thing you do is you grab on the bolt and it snaps right off in the block.
Right.
Well, that 1.1's over. At this
Right.
point, you got to call the customer and say, hey, here's what happened. What do you want to do now? I mean, we're gonna have to drill it out, extract it. We have to extract the bolt somehow. But it's hard for some people to understand. But that's not our fault. When something's so, we're in Wisconsin, everything gets
And
sold.
most vehicles we work on are like 10 to 20 years old. It's rare that something within 5 years comes to us directly. It's going to go to their dealership or Chevy or Dodge or Ford first.
Well, usually as soon as their factory warranty's out. So if that's 336, 350, or a 5-year 50, or whatever it is, when that warranty goes out, and that's usually when we start getting them. And by that time, if they're 5, 6 years old, we already know all their flaws. We got
some
a pretty
wear and
good
tear,
idea.
The average wear and tear that we're used to seeing.
That, or if the timing chains go out, or this goes out.
Front end suspension things are pretty common. A lot of heavier trucks. You kind of know what to look for.
But as the new ones come out, or as they get out of warranty, we pretty much have a pretty good handle on what's going to be happening. And that's what helps with that too is the car lot, because I'll buy late model vehicles, and all of a sudden like I said, everything I buy from the auction, there's something wrong with it, and we got to dig in and fix it. Well, we're just the next one that comes in, now we know exactly what's wrong with it, or a pretty good idea, get us in the right direction, So let's see here. So I would say within the last year or so I got one brother and I got 5 sisters. Me moved up here first. I think it was in 95. Then my brother moved up here, Kenny. And then right now I got 2 more sisters that moved up here. So I mean, so basically 3 sisters. I got 3 sisters in Watoma now, 1 brother. And my one sister my oldest sister, Barbie, she did move up. She was up here for a couple of years. She rented a house for me. And then she ended up moving to North Carolina because that's where her daughter was and the grandkids. You know how that goes. So she moved over there. And I only have one sister I only had one sister that didn't make it to Watoma yet. And that's Sheila. But give her time. I'm sure she'll be there at some point.
I like how you said yet. So, and then you followed up with give her some time.
Well, I think she's getting ready to retire pretty soon. And, it seems like when they retire, that's, Watoma's nice because it's a little bit slower pace. You know what I mean? It's nice.
It's got that country style lifestyle still.
Yeah, and it's got everything.
USA.
And it's got everything you need, right? You can.
And they're even building a YMCA now too with a pool.
Yes.
Like
yes.
it's about to have things that we've never even imagined to have there.
Right. I
So
hope that goes over well. I really do. I think
anything that's kid oriented, it will produce. As a young guy who grew up in around Red Granite area, Watoma area, 15, 16 years old, there's a lot of things to do if you wanted to get in trouble, but not a
you're
lot
right.
of things you wanted to do if you wanted to do something productive or community focused. That was very few and far in between. So I think this is amazing.
But yeah, I think that's going to give a lot of kids in the community, like you said, something to stay out of trouble, right?
Yeah.
Try to learn something there, and that's kind of the deal with the YMCA, right? I
Hey, your
mean, they got
son's a very big advocate for things for the youth and like the younger generation and what's available to them. And he's very big on advocating for what's needed. He made that clear the last time I visited your office.
sure. Well, yeah, he's got a lot of ideas. I mean, he always does a lot of thinking.
And
He
I
probably
told him
just have to
future podcast episode in the works for sure. We'll bring Jake on at some point in the future.
right. Yeah, exactly. Nice. So, I always, it's always funny because, in the heavy recovery business, the one thing I've wanted for years and years and years, and it was a rotating wrecker. You know,
Okay.
I've wanted a 50-ton rotator for years, and I just never could justify it, so I wouldn't get it. But we're getting to the time in life now that they're getting so prevalent that when you do like a sheriff's call or state patrol call or whatever it is, it's almost like a standard piece of equipment now. So last year I finally went out and bought a rotating wrecker. And I'll tell you what, that thing is amazing. I mean, the time it saves on recoveries and the things you can do with it and the things we've done with it, it's unbelievable. It's one of them things where I probably should have bought one 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but you just never know. And everybody I always talk to, we go to tow shows and you talk, and they said, if you buy one, the work will find you.
Right.
And just I think it was just last week we had a guy right by Alpine off with a piece of digging equipment, and he called and he said, I only want you to get, I need a rotator. That's what I need. Yeah, we got one, so we went out there, and because he didn't want any damage to his machine, and you got to be able to lift, and it's basically a mobile crane is what it
Right.
is.
That's what I think of it as when you say that.
Yeah, like a mobile crane, but it's we get on some of these big jobs, you park it in one spot, and you can completely work around it
Right.
360
Like
degrees.
a pivot point almost in a sense.
100, it goes around in a complete circle. So, I mean, we could work out one side of the truck and set that stuff on the other side of the truck, where before we'd have to move the truck from here. We hardly move the truck anymore. Once we set it up, it's there, and we can move completely around it, which is amazing. And um, like if I'm gone, then and we got Brian that usually runs it. You know what I mean? Chuck, Brian. So we got a good crew that understand it, right? We do training, we do testing, you try to get everybody on the same page. But is when you go like on a sheriff's call, like on the interstate or whatever.
I think about that Asplund truck that was twisted. I think about that type of call. That would have been so helpful to have
Oh,
on that call.
yes, if
Remember
we
the
could,
wench was connected to it and twisted
yeah,
too, so it was
yeah,
like we had
that,
all kinds of wiggle room stuff we had to do.
yeah. As long as the ground is, if it's off road, the ground's got to be solid enough because the thing weighs 77,000 pounds. So it's kind of, if you got a good footing, we we had I think one of the very first calls I did with it, FS had one of them big fertilizer spreaders, and they were up by, oh, that was up by Waywiga, up that way. And they went off in a swamp in the wrong place, and they buried this thing gone. They had two excavators, couldn't dent it. And we backed that thing in this road. It's like, it was a mat track, and we backed in there, and we used piles of railroad ties. And because there was not, if you walked off that mat track, the one guy went right down to his chest in water, all the way up to his chest.
Oh
Like
wow.
there was no, it's a peat bog. There's no bottom. And the guy from FS said, man, he says, I think we're going to lose this one. Cause I mean, this thing's sinking. And, so we took railroad ties and we blocked up the riggers and we got it all done. And by golly, we got it. I think it was a few hours. And, we were able to lift that whole machine up and with the excavators too on the back. And we set that thing back on the road. I mean, it was impressive.
Right.
The only flip side to that is if that rotator would have went through, it'd still be there. I mean, you got to be careful. You got to really have a good understanding of what foothold you got because it's so heavy, right? And
Right.
with the railroad ties and the whole works, it worked out good. But I mean, that guy was so happy. I mean, he was so, I was happy we didn't lose a truck. I mean, we took two along just in case we had to pull one, but it worked out good. And like I said, it's on something like that, you can't on a job like that because it was sunk down and there was that mat that we're on. There's no way of just hooking a regular wrecker and start winching, right?
Right.
Because you're
It'd
just gonna
snap
winch
every
the mat.
line.
You're
It
gonna
would
winch the
never.
mat right out from under you.
Yeah. Then you also got the ground that's absorbing and compacting to the piece of equipment, so that's
Yep.
extra weight keeping it like suction down almost. In a
When we
sense.
were doing that, I had Brian running the truck, and I would just stand back and watch, and I would tell him, load it, and the boom's bending. I said, just leave it alone, walk away. Walk away. About 10 minutes later, she'd
Yeah,
come
it
up.
just starts.
It came up about 5-6 inches, load it again, and we just kept doing that. And you got to let the suction break. You got to walk
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And then once we
And
got
so
that,
that's like times 10 tension.
God,
We don't see it, but it's there. But it's
but that's
there.
a job where we couldn't pull. We needed to lift straight up.
Right.
And once it was out of the ground, we had to rotate over and set it behind the truck. And then it was back on the road where it could drive its way out. But I mean, there's so many jobs that, did, we used to get by without it, right? I mean, we would always figure out a way. You had to be a pretty good tow operator when you didn't have one because you had to figure out a lot of different ways to get the same job done, right?
Right.
But
And
but now with
carefully, because it's dangerous. Every step of that is dangerous.
100%.
None of that is easy. It's all like high
Yep.
tense moment stuff here that's
Oh
happening.
yeah.
And like you said, they were willing to scrap it and call it a loss on equipment, but that's still probably $100,000 piece of equipment, give or take, that's sitting out in that field. You can't
Oh
just let
God, no.
that go.
That was about 500.
Oh yeah,
It
no
was
kidding.
it was brand new. It was like the second field that went in.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was just sick. And but we yeah, we got it. I mean, we did it and it came out and everything worked good there. But I mean, it's years of recovery work, and the more experience you get when you get to a scene, you can use bits and pieces from all them years. This worked on this year, this worked on that year, and that's the biggest thing is you get out on a job like on the interstate. The first thing an officer is going to ask you within 7 seconds, how long is this going to take? And you get out there, and it could be a rollover loaded semi, it could be whatever it may be, right? And like I always tell them, I said, it's hard to give me an exact time. We're going to shoot for an hour, and in an hour I can give you an update because I can see how everything reacts. I can see how everything, you know, we'd like to get it done in an hour and a half. And then, like I always said, there's a million ways to recover anything. You try to get it in the first one or two, maybe three, because you'll hook on something, and it might not react at all the way it should. And then you got to rethink and hook on a different direction, to get it to react what you need. And the bigger in what takes I can roll a semi over in probably 18 to 20 seconds, but it might take you an hour and a half to rig it.
Right.
Once it's rigged, it just comes over. The job is to get it rigged up, right? You got to lift the corner, you got to get straps under it. I mean, that's what takes the time is the rigging.
So much damage has already been sustained. Obviously, you don't want to add more to it. But if it's totaled, it's totaled. It is what
Oh
it is.
yeah,
You
yeah,
just need to get it
exactly.
out,
But I
get it
mean,
off the road, and get it ready to get hauled.
yeah. But if the roof is ripped or crumpled, you lost a lot of your structure for lifting, right? So you got to think of a different way of doing it, or
Manipulating large pieces of objects of metal like that with that capacity is not easy to do. There's counterweights that you got to consider that most people don't even think about.
yeah. And fortunately, I'm pretty good at figuring out recovery because I've done it long enough, and I can look at it and
Quick
then
assessment, like instant.
quick assessment, walk around it, and I got a crew that's done it enough with me too, and I just tell them, hey, this, and they go do it. By the time they're done with that, we're hooking cables, and you know, here she comes. It comes over, hook it up, and get it out of there.
What would John Wenninger do?
Yeah, 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 right. And a lot of them, like I said, they've been on enough calls with me. They made them very, very good operators because they've been on enough. And you got to remember something too. I'm 55 now, so if I want to take a couple weeks off or a month at some point. I need good people to be able to run this, and I can't. If you don't let them learn and you don't show them how, I'll never be able to do it. You got to have, you got to, the next generation, you have to teach them, train them. Because if you don't, who's going to carry it on? If I was a stubborn guy that had to do everything myself until I was 70 and died, or 80 or whatever it is, what good is it if I didn't teach the next generation how to do it?
100%.
I firmly believe you got to teach younger kids, or I shouldn't call them kids,
Younger generation.
younger generation. And it's amazing because some of the younger generation, with their technology that they know that I don't, it's easier for them to do a lot of things.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it's you always joke about kids playing video games, but when it comes to hand-eye coordination on some of that stuff, that probably helps them quite a bit with it.
Right.
They know they can do it, which is amazing. So that was.
I was going to say, being a person who's worked in like the foundries and has worked in metal fabrication shops, it's all the older veterans, these all old timers that have like the tips and the tricks, the ins and the outs on how to get the job done safely, act like professionally, get it done right the first time, no mistakes, like no waste, no extra time wasted. Like they know the tips and tricks, and a lot of the younger generation, sometimes they just like, oh, that guy thinks he knows it all. He's just scared because I'm faster than him. It's just like, you're faster, but that doesn't mean you're better. So it's like, you got to listen to some of these old timers and take that knowledge, because that's data. Like Stan, for example, once he fully retires, who's going to do transmissions the way he does? To try to replace a man with his knowledge is almost impossible in today's day and age.
Yes, exactly.
Fewer and far in between.
What's that?
Fewer and far in between.
Yeah.
As far as people with that kind of knowledge or
and like you said, that getting, that's when you're going to go from rebuilding them to buying rebuild transmissions, because it's just the younger generation, they're not rebuilding transmissions. You know what I mean? They have no love for it, and it's an art, right? I mean, it's not as easy as you think it is, Yeah, and once he fully retires, it's going to be sad, because he'll come in and he'll fix a lot instead of telling somebody they need a new $5,000 transmission. A lot of times for $2,000, he can fix them he can just do a repair on it.
Right.
If it's just a broken part, and save him a lot of money. And when he's done, it's just as good as a rebuild.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's sad because
it's certified in his abilities.
Yeah. And it just saved the customer $3,000. You know what I mean? Like, the problem we're getting now is a lot of these cars that are getting older, the transmissions and motors and stuff, they used to be a couple grand. Now they're like $5,000-6,000 to put an engine or tranny in. Well, now you're getting pretty close to what the car is worth, right? Or you know what I mean?
Right.
If you're going to put $6,000 in this car, at this point, maybe you're just going to move on and buy a new vehicle. Put that $6,000 in a new vehicle and just get rid of it. And that's the problem with prices. The prices are getting so high on a lot of parts and labor that a lot of people are just buying, a new vehicle and getting rid of the old one. Which you got to figure out where that line is, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll tell
how
people
much you're willing to invest.
Yeah, and if they come in and they want this and this, and I look at it, I said, I'll gladly do the work, but the car is not worth it. Take your money, and I'll tell them right out, invest it somewhere else. Buy another car, because you're gonna do this, and in 6 months down the road, this is gonna go. In 6 months, that's gonna go, and the same thing's gonna happen. It's just you're just gonna prolong it for a year. So I try to talk to these people like they're my own relatives. Don't do it, or and if I think it's good and it's gonna last, and they're gonna get 2, 3, 4 years out of it, I'll tell them, well, hey, you got a good solid car here. I think you're good to go. And
especially if they want to keep it,
that
they want to keep the vehicle sentimental value. They don't care about the resale value.
There is some like that. You're right. There is some like that. But for the most part, when it comes to that, it's usually something like a classic car, older vehicle that's, with sentimental value because it's been passed down. But you get a lot of this new front wheel drive stuff, and it's just Kias and Hyundais, and
it's crap.
Well,
it's crap.
They're actually good vehicles. It just when they're timed out at 200 rounds, 250 rounds, right? 250,000, at that point, there's no value left to the car. I mean, if you look up the resale value, it could be $3,000. I mean, why would you put a $5,000 motor in a $3,000 car?
And I'm sure they
Doesn't
were
make
reliable power plants the majority of their life, but with
sure.
improper maintenance and not getting performed on a regular basis, once they even hit 200,000, sometimes they're barely holding it together. 250,000 is actually a pretty good mark for most vehicles if they can make it that far.
We've taken brand new, or I would say, I think we had a Kia that had 40,000 miles on it, whatever, just out of warranty. Um, the person that had blown up the motor, never changed oil in it from new. So completely jumped. Now that one, you almost got to put a motor in because the car is almost brand new.
Right.
But the problem is with brand new cars and different motors is it's not like you can just get a junkyard motor, or a used
No,
motor.
there's like programmed to a code or a
Well,
serial
it's not
number.
even that. It's just they're not out yet.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
too,
because they're on backlogs, they're back orders.
yeah, it's too new. I mean, you can't get the engine. And if, say, you want to get a low mileage engine out of a wrecked car, you almost got to wait for somebody to wreck a car to get an engine. And then when that
Yeah.
happens, because there's so few of them engines, guess what happens to the price? Right through the roof. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can almost buy a new engine for what they want for a used engine because availability. So
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
ridiculous.
but yeah, and I think that's like you were talking about doing some podcasts on maintenance and like as
Absolutely.
far as checking your oil, being
That'd be
mindful
so
on your
helpful.
oil changes. If you're driving down the road and you lose heat, it's the first indicator that your antifreeze is low. You know what I mean?
Right.
Your heat will stop coming out of the
You can
dash.
prevent major mechanical
Oh
catastrophic failure by paying attention to the small symptoms and signs
yeah,
that alert, a little light on your dash. It's not just a little light on your dash. It's your engine is screaming at you, telling you something.
I mean,
Something is happening.
you've driven vehicles with wheel bearings. I mean, that's because they're all sealed wheel bearings now. And you've driven them where you get in it and they're growling so bad. I'm scared to go around the block, but you got to remember that person that drove that car every day, right? It started with a little growl, a little louder, little louder, little louder. It came to be normal to them. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because it just kept little bit, and all of a sudden there the growl is. And I get it. I'm like, oh my God, this wheel's gonna fall off.
And it's not just
And
the wheel. Then you got suspension end links that are
oh
worn, sway
yeah,
bars, bushings that are shot. Probably need struts. The back tires are now showing unusual wear in the centers because of the issues up front.
but
It's a chain reaction of problems from small things.
you get a nice car and you just do your maintenance that you're supposed to do in your intervals that you're supposed to do it in. They last a long time. You got to do a little bit. You just keep it maintained. Just keep it going. Oil changes, air filters, fuel filters. You know what I
Brake
mean?
pads,
Well, if you need them, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. When you rotate, a lot of times when we rotate tires or we sell a new set of tires, rotate and balance for the life of them tires come free. So
right,
then we're always in there checking it for you, right? Looking at your we're checking out the brake pads or rotor
right.
suspension, sway bars,
Trying to
because
anticipate future repairs before they become
yeah, and then you
problematic.
tell them, hey, coming up down the road here, you're going to be needing this. They can budget for it, they can plan for it, and they can keep their car on the road doing that. Where
And
if they
they can
didn't,
feel confident that at least they know where they're at with their vehicle and their investment.
yeah. And I want everybody that rolls out of there, I want them to be able to take this car wherever they want to drive it, right? And I always say that when people say, well, the car is old, I don't think we can drive it this far. And I'm like, if it's maintained and it's a good, if everything's maintained and it's good, I'll drive a 1966 Pontiac, 12 hours to Deadwood, South Dakota. I don't care what year it is, and I don't care how old it is. I mean, if it's mechanically sound, it's
Right,
mechanically sound, right? So, I mean, I don't like when people say that, it's too old to take somewhere. Well, it ain't too old to take somewhere, but if it's too old to take somewhere because you didn't maintain it its whole life and it's got a lot of issues, then I would say yes, it's too old
right.
to take somewhere. But as long as you keep up with the maintenance, I have so many customers that come in religious on their oil change and transmission services, their rotations and they get a steering shaft that rattles. They'll come in, we'll put a new steering shaft in, not a big deal. But they keep up on it, right?
Right.
and they're not afraid to drive that vehicle anywhere. And they could be, them vehicles are 20, 25 years old now, and just because they kept up on the maintenance. I always say pay now or pay later, but you're going to pay. You're going to
True.
have to. Isn't it easier to just pay a little bit at a time versus one great big chunk?
100%.
Yeah. And you learn that,
100%.
I mean, you've been doing it with vehicles, with cars, as long as you've been driving, right?
Yeah, I'm 38. I think I've owned about 15 different brands and styles of vehicles, and I've only been a car salesman like once or twice in my life. So that's actually a low number compared to most guys, probably.
So I guess, Molly, that pretty much sums up, from the start to date right now. And I'm not saying down the road things can't change, and I'm sure there's going to be more to add to this at some point. And I'd like to say I'm very fortunate with the crew I got. I'm fortunate with my family I have, friends. I mean, it's just unbelievable how, I don't know, you treat people right? I always call it karma. It comes back to you. And I've been very fortunate with my career, my life, everything I've done, my kids. So I've been very fortunate that way. And yeah, I have absolutely no regrets. And like I said before, you don't pick your job will pick you. You're gonna
Right.
weave and wind and twist and turn, and when you think you're gonna be a baker, next thing you know, you're putting tires on a car. You don't know. You know what I mean? You think you're gonna be this, but that's just not. You can always think what you want to be, but life will tell you what you're gonna be. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's usually for a
100%.
good thing. I personally, I haven't worked a day in my life. I mean, like I said, if I'm at home over a weekend, I work 7 days a week. I'm in the shop building something. I'm That's what I like to do. I don't work. I don't work. Just I do what I do every day, and I enjoy it that much that I don't work. You know,
That's
and
the old saying is if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
never work a day. Is there some stressful days? Absolutely. Would I change it? Absolutely not.
Right.
It's. So I mean, like I said, I've been.
Purpose over comfort. That's one of the things I've been thinking about lately is
Yeah.
your purpose in life versus a comfortable lifestyle. A lot of people take those regular nights because that's comfort. That's the easy money. That's the I don't have to work too hard or think too hard. But then there's your purpose. What are you meant for? And that purpose is gonna demand from you. And
Ah,
you're gonna have to put a lot into it, into your purpose.
yep.
It won't come easy, but then once you're there and when you made it and you have the companies, it's like then you can choose what you do with your time, and time is the richest thing, not money. Being,
Oh, yeah. You could have all the money in the world, but you are definitely going to run out of time,
you know,
guaranteed, at some point.
you know,
And I always said too. I mean, I've been doing this long enough to know that there's leaders, there's followers, and there's teachers, right? And there are some people that are just extremely happy with going to work, and and not going to knock factory workers, but they go to work, they love what they do their job, and they come home, they put their 40 hours in a week or maybe some a little overtime, and they're perfectly 100% happy with that. And you know what, Maui, they are going to retire just like me and you. They're going
that's
to
the
have the
pursuit of
retire.
happiness.
They're going to have their retirement built up. They're going to know what they need to retire, and because they lived such I don't want to say a simple life, but you know what I mean. It was just you do this, and you repeat, rinse, wash, repeat, right?
No mystery stress.
No, and
No
then when
reinventing the
they do
wheel every day.
when they retire, they're not looking. A lot of these people aren't looking to travel the world. They're not looking to do this. They're not looking to do this. They're pretty happy with just retiring and being at home, and you know what I mean. Maybe taking a trip a year or
Absolutely.
something, but everybody's wound different, right? I mean, there's no two people the same, and you got to have. But if you wouldn't have the factory people, and you wouldn't have the mechanics, and if you wouldn't have the bakers, you know what I mean.
The economy
We
would not be what it is. The world wouldn't turn.
we need
It needs
everybody.
all this.
We
100%.
have to have everybody, And I always said, you know, not everybody can be a chief. Sometimes you got to be the Indian too. You got to have all of it. And I got a really good the company I'm running now. I have a really good mix of that. I got a good mix of leaders. I got a good mix of followers and teachers. A lot of my seasoned mechanics will technicians mechanics. They will take the time to teach the young ones why we're doing it this way and why we're doing it to begin with.
Why it
And
matters.
that goes a long ways, because once you show them why, now they're just building to their arsenal of experience. But if nobody's going to teach them, who's going to do it?
Right.
You
100%.
can go. I actually hired one guy from the tech, and he didn't even go there for mechanics at all. But I gave him a try, and he's still Lucas still with me.
Yeah.
But he's got the capacity to figure it out, and he's got he can take stuff apart and put it together. I mean that's where you got to now. My job is to have other people help him, show him different things to learn, right?
Right.
And he picks up on it. And that's all you need. If you can pick up on it, you can be taught. So I guess with that, I think we're gonna end it at this point. And then, like I said, if any new developments come up, I'll get a hold of you, and then maybe we can get maybe we can get Brian on here on a podcast with doing some maintenance or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think there's a lot of potential for like a regular maintenance car vehicle segment. I think that it's important for the people in the community because, again, that can prevent a lot of costly things down the road. It's very simple conversations, and I think that it'll help everybody.
When's the last time you were at a gas station you've seen somebody check their oil?
It's very rare, but I have seen it. And it's usually because they're out of oil. If it's like they're pulled up at the side because their engine's knocking and smoking, and they're just like, I don't know what's wrong. You don't have any oil in it. That's part of the problem.
Believe it or not, somebody, what people don't understand is a lot of these new cars are turbocharged, and when these turbos fail, they eat the oil right out of the motor, right?
Yeah, because there's like blow by, right? A seal
it sucks the right or something. Yeah, seal will go out and it'll suck it right through the motor, comes out the exhaust. So, if a lot of these people would just and then their oil change intervals are getting so high on them, you know what I mean?
It's like 10,000 miles on one.
Yeah, they used to be 3,000. Then they went to 5. Then they went to 10.
And now it's 10 on some of these.
My best advice to anybody on that is, I don't care what your intervals are, change it at 5,000 miles, at least 5,000. Change it at 5, because you're going to keep up on anything that's going wrong, right?
Right.
You go 10,000 miles. I mean, how many low tires do you have before you get in there, and how many, busted parts do you have that you're not? And then,
right.
And then if you're going to do it at 5,000, maybe at 2,500 miles, maybe just pull the dipstick. And if you're at the gas station, maybe just pop the hood, pull the dipstick. Right. And I'll tell anybody this: if anybody that doesn't know how to check their own oil, they can stop by the shop anytime they want. One of our guys will go out there and show you exactly how to do it. It takes about a minute. You know what I mean? Once you show you where, but at least at half the interval, if you look at it and it's low, you're probably not going to make it to your oil change, right?
Right.
100%. You're either going to have to add oil at this point, and a lot of these new cars use oil. Unfortunately, because of the turbos, they had ring problems. You know what I mean? Like you said, by the time they open the hood to check the oil, it's already done. The motor's
the damage has occurred, or it has been applied.
It's over. Yeah, it's too late. But just taking a minute to open the hood and check your oil, that could save you $5,000. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like I said, anybody wants to stop by, we'll be more than happy to show them how. Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, we'll get Brian on there with the maintenance deal, and he can actually kind of go through it too, with like a live feed would, check this, you know what I mean? He can show you, like, when you open the door and it says, your front tires should be at 35, the rear at 32. It's a lot of stuff people don't realize because they just don't deal with it, right?
100%.
We're not trying to make everybody a mechanic, but just if they can have just a little bit of,
little education and understanding of how things are supposed to work. Yeah, little education
where they can help themselves, right? And try to not have such a big major expense.
Or another thing is, like, if they're leaking a fluid of any kind, how to diagnose what type of fluid that could potentially be, and whether or not it's safe to even operate the vehicle and move it from that location or have it towed immediately. That could save someone a $5,000 bill as well, just by knowing that's pink or that's green or so 100%.
Yeah. This year, it was during Veterans Day this year, and I didn't even realize it was Veterans Day. I'm not always in the shop or in the office a lot, so I was come through the office, and there was a older gentleman with a veteran's hat on. He was sitting there, and Randy said he was looking for a used tire for his pickup truck, and I So I sat down next to him, talked to him a little bit. And I said, asked what he was looking for. And he said he needed a used tire. He was on a fixed income and he could only buy one tire a month. And I asked him if that was his truck outside the front door. And he said it was. I said, well, I'm going to go look and see what size they are. So I went outside and I got the size off the truck and came back and I told him, I said, well, I'll tell you what, it was like 11:45. Like I said, didn't even realize it was Veterans Day. And I told him, I said, well, I'll tell you what, I said, after lunch, I said, I'll give you a call back or Emily will call you back. I think I have a set of used tires for this truck. And then that's when he told me again, you know, he can only buy one. He's on a fixed income, one at a time. That's all he can afford. So Dawn showed up at the shop that day. So we went to lunch and we went to the Moose Inn for lunch that day. And when we got there, the parking lot was full. And I'm like, wow, wonder what's going on here. And not realizing it was Veterans Day because I even heard it on the radio. And I go in there and Ed's got a deal where he's given, it was a free chicken dinner for the veterans, mashed potatoes, the whole deal. And he served a lot. He served quite a few people because Ed was there that day and I was talking to him. And I said, well, that's pretty nice, take care of all these, veterans like that. So then after lunch, we're going back to the shop and I told, before we went to lunch, I ran out and looked, we didn't have any tires that size. We were just either one size up, one size down, nothing that would work. So then after I realized it was Veterans Day and I told Dawn the story about the veteran in the office and, he can only afford one tire, a used tire a month. And so I said, would you be okay if we just buy him a brand new set of tires? And she said, absolutely. So I got back and I had Emily call him up and just tell him we're just going to buy him a brand new set of tires and put them on. And she calls him and tells him. And he says, are you kidding? And she says, no. He says, you're going to buy me a set of brand new tires. She says, yep. She says, John said, buy a new set of tires. She said, we're going to sponsor you for Veterans Day this year. She said, you're a veteran and we want like to do something nice for the veterans. And so at any rate, he must have asked Emily 5 times if this was true. And she said, yep. So we put him on the schedule, ordered him a really nice set of tires for his truck. So he came down to Main Street by Michelle and ends up getting tires put on. And the guy just sat there and cried. Here he's going through cancer. He's getting better, but he's going through cancer. He has no money left. I mean, his bills suck up everything. So it made me feel really good that we could help him. At the end of the day, that's kind of what it's about. I'm kind of getting to this position now where I can do this once in a while. You know what I mean? And it was just, I always, maybe it was something to do with God too, because I'm very seldom ever in an office. And it just happened that I caught it on, it was just like catching crossfire, right? As I'm going through and I caught that. And then, so, I mean, it's amazing just, and this guy, he's, I believe he was from over by Pine River, Poisippi, somewhere over in that area. So he doesn't come by us a lot. It just happened that, he was just kind of poking around trying to find, maybe he was at the grocery store and thought he'd stop in and see if he could get a used tire because his tires were no good at all. So that was good. And I hope, for him, it worked out good. And I hope he gets healthy and, has enough time to enjoy them. And told him too, you get a set of tires, you lifetime rotate and balance. So don't be afraid to, come back every 5,000 miles and we'll rotate them and balance them for you. And so, yeah, so I figured if Ed could buy all them people chicken dinners, I could buy a veteran a set of tires. And,
Right.
yeah, so it worked out real good. And Michelle said the guy was very appreciative of it. But I mean, you don't know why things happen and you just can't ever figure the timing on it, but you don't know why or how. But it seems like there's always a reason that it does. It just, it just like I always said, karma, you pass it on, it comes back around. So yeah, so that's my veteran story. And I'm glad that we were able to help him out.
That's an awesome story, John. Like you said, you had seen over at Ed's, they had a whole bunch of people there going on. And it's like a positive chain reaction, right? It's like God put it on your heart that like to be there at that right exact time for that guy to show up at your shop that exact same day. Like it's fate. It's so much more than life than what we understand. And we're grateful to have the opportunity to be in the position to help others.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I mean that there's more to it than just, I mean, like I
It's
said,
not all luck. It's not all luck. Luck plays a role, but it's not all luck.
yeah, it's not all luck. I agree with that 100%. I think he needed help, and I think the right people got him the help. You know what I mean? He was
Yeah,
in the
no,
right place at the right time.
that's awesome. And I really am. I really do like what Ed does there at the Moose. He's got a lot of other things that he does too. So,
Yep.
I really like seeing other business owners inspire other business owners. And I know you guys are friends, so you guys work together on certain things, but it's nice to see people inspire others to do good. And it's not like he nudged you to do it or he like, put a birdie in your ear. It was just the joy of seeing joy that
Exactly. Yeah.
inspired you to do it.
I never mentioned this to Ed or anything when I was at the, it was just, I talked to Don about it, and it was just the right thing to do at the right time. That's all it was, at the end of the
So
day.
it's awesome.
So
That
it
is
worked out
phenomenal,
good.
John. Again, as far as future episodes, I definitely think that there's a lot more stories that are probably going to come to mind, that have transpired in the past or even upcoming new ones. So I definitely
Sure.
think that there's a lot more potential to have you and some of the team come on in upcoming episodes. And, we definitely have some potential to work together on some exciting things for the community as far as educating them on vehicle maintenance and, how to
Yep.
properly maintain and handle their vehicles throughout, the years of life. Because you get one vehicle and it's like it's not like a cell phone, or like certain objects that you get gifted. You keep that for many significant years, and it's a big factor of your life. It's a critical
Yeah.
decision sometimes too. Who you buy a car from, where you get it maintenance at, all those things kind of trickle down from your upper generations. Like my dad only uses castor oil. It has to be castor oil. That's just the best oil out there because that's how I've ever been taught.
Hmm.
Just an example. My dad doesn't use castor
Yeah.
oil, but
And vehicles now cost what a house used to cost.
yeah, it's a
You know what I
significant
mean?
investment.
Yeah, it's an investment that you need to take care of, right?
And I,
You
I
know?
tell a lot of people, like, as far as like the younger generation, texting and driving, like, don't do it. It's so stupid. That couple seconds of you looking down could destroy and change your life. you know um and it's a piece of equipment, it's a large piece of machinery, and you have to respect that. There's a level of respect that it demands from people, and momentum, gravity. Then you have laws of attraction, opposite vehicles, and what their intent is with their driving. Coming from Chicago, I'd like to think I'm a pretty safe driver. If there's children in my car, I'm the safest driver in the world on top of that, so proper maintenance,
Yeah.
all of that only goes so far. Proper maintenance on the vehicle takes up the rest of it. So I think that people like you and your technicians, definitely play an important role in the community. And I'm grateful that you took the time out of your day to share your stories with us. And I definitely think that there's a lot of room for future stories and episodes as well. So
All right, we'll
thanks
talk
again,
to you
John
later,
Wenninger.
Ariana.
All right, sir. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Everyone stay tuned. This episode will drop either this afternoon or tomorrow. And we have another guest for next week. So stay tuned and thanks for tuning into the Freeman Focus.